Welcome to the operating system. So we are ready to begin the unit 4, that is deadlocks. So deadlocks, the subtopics towards it will be the basic primitives, that is characteristics, prevention, avoidance, and detection, followed by recovery. So these are the major contributions for this unit: characterization, prevention, avoidance, detection, and recovery. So handling incidents, all these aspects, they are going to come into the picture. So what exactly these four characteristics will be? One will be the mutual exclusion. The second one will be hold and wait. Third one will be no preemption. And fourth one will be the circular waiting. So whatever topics we are going to discuss, that is either characteristic of a deadlock, either recovery of a deadlock, neither the two more methods, that is prevention, avoidance, and detection. That is prevention, avoidance, and detection. So whatever terminology we are going to take up in deadlocks, all the terminology will be mapped to these primitives, that is mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, and circular waiting. So either I talk about recovery, either I talk about prevention, either I talk about avoidance, either I talk about detection, whatever content what we are going to take, all those elements we will be segregating only towards the four deadlock characters, towards the four deadlock characteristics what we are going to take up. So in any of a content, these four only will be there. I will say due to these four deadlock will come. I will say how to eliminate these four, and I will say right to look up a banker's algorithm. Thereby we will be seeing that deadlock will be prevented. So whatever agenda we take up as a deadlock item, everything will roll over only these four items. So how to represent these four items? Yes, the representation of these four items will be done using graphs. When I am going to call it as the graphs, then I do have a way to represent it. One I am going to call it as vertex, and another we are going to call them as edges. So a graph structure, a graph data structure is going to be represented to see how CPU cycles are given, how memory space is given, how IO devices are going to be taken up. All these elements are going to be replicated towards this. And obviously, they can be dealt with request, use, and release. So I have resources. What is a resource? It can be CPU, it can be memory, it can be IO. Okay. So it can be a CPU, it can be a memory, it can be a IO. Those we are going to call them as resources. Then what I am going to have? I do have process. Process are represented with P0, P1, P2 followed by Pn. Then process are going to be requesting for a resource, using a resource, releasing of a resource. So if I am going to make a resource like this, resources are going to be formed in form of a rectangle. They are going to be given it as a rectangle, and these elements we are going to have inside elements as dots. Inside elements we are going to call them as instances. Circles are going to be used to represent the process 1, process 2, process 3, etc. So this is how a system model is going to be taken up. Now, as mentioned, deadlock characteristics. One, it is going to have mutual exclusion. Second, it is going to have hold and wait. Third, it is going to have no preemption. Fourth, it is going to have circular wait. If all the four elements, mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, circular wait, if all of them they hold simultaneously, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, that is mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, circular waiting. If all of them they are going to be done at a time, then deadlock is going to be raised. So that is the item where the characteristics is going to be taken up. Now let us dig deep into a word called as mutual exclusion. Mutual exclusion. So when I am going to call it as mutual exclusion, at most one process should be in the shade, should be using the shade or a state item, whatever you call. So I will see that at most one process is going to be a part of a shared content and it is going to be preserved. So how do I make to see that at most one process will be there? Very simple. I can say I am going to have a critical section. In critical section, I have some collection of shared items, and these shared items I am going to give it as locking mechanism. Then I am going to call it as unlocking mechanism. So if process P0 and process P1 are going to compete for a shared content, then what I will do, I am going to use semaphore, and semaphore it is going to use P and it is going to V. So when I am going to say it is P, then it is going to say it allows the process. Then if it is going to be V, it says that, yeah, you are going to be in a wait process. So one I am going to call it as signal process. Another it is going to say it as wait process. Using these two primitives called as semaphores, now mutual exclusion is going to be preserved using locking mechanism and using unlocking mechanism. So that is the first agenda of the deadlock characteristic. After that, we do have hold and wait mechanism. The second characteristics we are going to call. So when I am going to have a hold and wait, what is exactly is going to happen is there is a process P1 and it is going to hold a resource. It is going to hold a resource R1 and it is going to ask for a resource R2 and this resource R2 is going to be in the hands of a P2 process. Got it? So R1, R2 we are going to call it resources. P1, P2 we are going to call it as processes. So process P1 is holding a resource. Process P1 is waiting for a resource which is in the hands of P2. Then that scenario we are going to call it as hold and wait. So we can see that process P1 is holding resource R1. Process P2 is going to use this wait scenario. That is all regarding these aspects. After that, we do have no preemption. We do have the third mechanism having it as no preemption. So what is no preemption here? So at any moment of time, a process can join. When a process is going to be joined, obviously the algorithm is going to be rescheduled. We are going to have some CPU scheduling algorithms. One we are going to call it as FCFS algorithm. Second one we are going to call it as shortest job first algorithm. Another we are going to call it as round robin algorithm. And last one we are going to call it as priority scheduling algorithm. So when we are going to taking up the shortest job first algorithm, we say which is the job burst time is low, that job we are going to take up. But we assume that all the process P0, P1, P2, their arrival time is different. We are going to assume that arrival time is different. Now the CPU scheduling is going to be deferred. That means it arrives at 0th millisecond, it arrives at 3rd millisecond, it arrives at 5th millisecond. So then we have the burst time. So based upon the burst time, it is going to reshuffle the elements and thereby executing it. So if I am going to call it as a preemption at that time, if I am going to call it as preemption, then I can say arrival time 0 and it is going to be fixed. If I am going to call it as preemption, arrival time is fixed. When I am going to call it as no preemption, we can say that the arrival time is going to be different. So that is what we should understand between hold and wait, and we should understand between no preemption content. The last characteristic of a deadlock will be the circular waiting. So when I am going to call it as circular waiting, I have process P1, process P2, process P3, and process P3 is going to have a resource R1, R2, R3. I am going to have resources R1, R2, and R3. So now you can see that there is a chain is going to happen. We can assume there is a chain functionality which is going to happen between this process, etc. So now you can see this is one setup of hold and wait. This is another setup of hold and wait. This is another set of hold and wait. So what is going to happen? Multiple hold and waits are going to be one of a primitive where this circular waiting is going to be taken up. So I can say that process P1 is going to hold resource R1 and asking for resource R2 which is with process P2. I can say that process P3 is holding resource R3 and it is going to ask for a resource R1 which in turn it is going to be held by process P1. So this element we are going to call them as circular waiting. So if all these four characteristics are going to be taken up at the same interval of time simultaneously, then a deadlock is going to be happened. So that is what we are going to see it. So here we can see an example how a deadlock is going to taken up. In deadlock, mutual exclusion locks, and either a deadlock with the four characteristics will arrive at a multi-threading operation, will arrive only at a multi-threading operation. So when we are going to call here as a multi-threading operation, we can say that pthread mutex lock, pthread unlock. So these are the two protection primitives which are going to be operated via the semaphore. So locks, they can be happened over a mutual exclusion, thereby they can be unlocked over the mutual exclusion. So this is an example what we are going to take up. There is a thread which is called as a lightweight thread, and every thread is going to be representing a process, and every thread is going to be represented with a mutual exclusion represented as M1 and M2, and it is going to be initialized. Now you can see here that there are two threads. What we are going to provoke here. So up to this part you can see there is a mechanism which it is going to call up a thread T1, and you can see there is mutual exclusion 1, mutual exclusion 2, that is mutex lock 1 and lock 2. This is what we are going to do the shared content. We are going to have the shared content. Once locking is going to be done, we are going to make unlock 1 and unlock 2. So I am going to use a lock mechanism with mutual exclusion, and I am going to make unlock mechanism. So that is mutual exclusion 1, mutual exclusion 2, that is locking and unlocking is going to be taken up. Got it? So after that, we are going to have thread 2, and thread 2, it is little bit vice versa, where I can say that mutual exclusion 1, mutual exclusion 2. It is mutual exclusion 2 and mutual exclusive 1. So a swap operation and interchange operation you can observe here. So mutual exclusion 2 is different, mutual exclusion 1 is different, but way it is going to use the shared data structure is same. That is mutual exclusion 1 and mutual exclusion 2. So that is how a mutual exclusion is going to be taken up. Next one, we do have resource allocation graph. Next one, we are going to have a resource allocation graph, which it is going to be represented with some set of vertices and with some set of edges, with some set of vertex and some set of edges. So as it is going to be a graph, it is going to be cyclic. It is going to have a cyclic data structure. So when we are going to call it as a cyclic data structure, now we represent the things using edges. That is request edge followed by the assignment edge. One we are going to call it as the request edge. Another we are going to call it as assignment edge. So we do have directed edge, that is from P1 to R1, and we do have assignment edge, resource to process. So process to resource, we are going to call it as a direct edge, and that direct edge we are going to call it as requesting edge. Another, we do have some resource to a process, we are going to call it as an assignment edge. You should understand this. So when a process to a resource is going to be made up, we call it as resource edge. And when a resource to a process is going to be made up, then we are going to call this one as assignment edge. So how do we represent a process? Processes are going to be represented in form of circles. How do we represent a resource instances? I can say it is represented in rectangle and 4 dots are going to be taken up. By resource, I do represent resource with an instance. So pi2 resource R1. Then I can say process pi2 resource Rj. So you can see the arrow mark is going to be towards the left side. It is going towards the left side, and the arrow mark is going to be represented towards the right side of an edge. So when it is towards the right side of an edge, we call it as requesting edge. When it is towards the left side, we are going to call it as a holding edge. So holding edge, we are going to call here as a assignment edge. We are going to call this one as assignment edge. So one we are going to call it as requesting edge, another we are going to call it as assignment edge. So now you can see this example here: process P1, process P2, process P3, and resource R1 is going to have one instance, R3 is going to have one instance, R2 is going to have two instances, and R4 is going to have some 3 instances of the resource. So 3 users can simultaneously use the resource R4. That is how we can interpret. Now what is this scenario you can see? So process P1 is going to hold R2 and requesting, hold and waiting for R1. That is what we can say. And this one edge, we are going to call it as requesting edge. And this point, we are going to call it as assignment edge. One we are going to call it as assignment edge. Another we are going to call here as a requesting edge. That is how we can say. So there are situations where cycles can happen. There are situations where cycles may not happen. So a data structure will see that totally in a graph representation, a deadlock may happen without a cycle. So resource allocation graph, we can say there is a cycle, and this one you can say there is a cycle, but you can say there is no deadlock. So that is what this first content is going to be happening. After this first content, we do have the second part of the content. That is, we do have the second part of the content. That one we are going to call as deadlock prevention. We call this one as deadlock prevention. So when we are going to call this one as a deadlock prevention, we do have the same four principles, that is towards the deadlock prevention. So you can see the facts. If graph contains no cycles, then we are going to assume that there is a deadlock. So the basic fact what we should digest was a graph contains no cycles, then there is no deadlock. If graphs contain a cycle, then if only one instance per resource, then there is a deadlock. If only one instance per resource type, then there may be a chance to have a deadlock. If several instances per resource type, possibility of again there is a deadlock. So if I am going to say there is only one instance and there is a cycle, there is a chance for deadlock. Similarly, if there are multiple instances, again there is a possibility for a deadlock. So these are the two facts what are going to be part when the four characteristics, that is mutual exclusion, no preemption, circular weighting. So for all these aspects, they have to be rectified. So how we are going to rectify these aspects? One, we are going to call it as deadlock prevention. Another, we are going to call them as deadlock avoidance. Ensure that the system will never enter into a deadlock. Ensure that a system will never enter into a deadlock. So how we can ensure a system will never enter into a deadlock? That means the system is going to be in a state with one, we call it as deadlock prevention. Another, we should say it should be eliminated towards deadlock avoidance. So how can I say that hold and wait should not happen? Very simple. If I want to request for a resource, release the existing resource what you have. How do I say eliminate a circular weighting? To see that the last process will not have a chain to the first. So there are strategies how a deadlock will be eliminated. That means we are still using a graph data structure, but we will see that they are going to be bug free, error free from chaining. That is, they will not have the chaining in sense there will be no cycling effect. That is, a cycling data structure more or less like a tree is going to be part when this graph is going to be happening. Yeah. How do we take up this deadlock prevention? So if four conditions are going to occur at a time, then deadlock is going to happen. Now let us see that at least one or two, if we are going to break up, then we can restrain it from deadlock. That is how we can prevent it. So restraining the waste so that the deadlock can be prevented. One, we are going mutual exclusion. So mutual exclusion, how we can make a little modification to it. Yeah, let us discuss. So resources can be navigated with read operation and with write operation. When I am going to say it as a read operation, it can be worked in shareable mode. When I am going to work with non-shareable items, then it is going to be with a write operation. Let us look into a real-time scenario. So we have this where is my train, spot my train. So it need not be meant the app is only for us. multiple users, concurrent users will be tracking the same app from their location, and they are going to view where was their train status, etc. That means they are going to do a read operation. So it is 11:30, they can't make it as 11:20 or they can't make it as 11:40. Okay, they can see the time, that's all. They are not able to enter into the railway database, change the train time, change the train number, change the train name. So such operations they can't be made. So only the thing is the resource is there, shared resource is there, that is called as a time, etc. And that they can use it at any place where they are. So they are going to make a read operation. So multiple readers, concurrent users can do that operation at a time. Now let us look into the second way, the other way. So assume a railways database administrator is there. So the railway department, the person who is going to maintain the database at IRCTC, now he want to update the train. So the next station, it is going to come at 10 o'clock like that. So he is going to change the time. That means that person, he has a admin right, and that person, he is going to make a write operation there. So write operation is going to be the internal aspect of that person, and only that person, the person who is going to have a access right to make a write operation, only that person can change the database, update the database, modify the database, and remaining users, we can only view the database, and remaining users, we can only view the database. So viewing a database, we can say it is a read operation. Updating, altering the database, it is going to be a write operation. So when we are going to work on a write operation, that mode we are going to call it as non-shareable mode. So only the persons who has the access right to make a write operation, only those are authorized people, and they can do a write operation. Others we can read. Now, where to apply mutual exclusion? Where to apply mutual exclusion towards read or write? Yeah, when I am going to have a write operation, then I can't make it as a concurrent writes. But when I am going to make it as a read operation, I can say it can be multiple users. So there can be a concurrent read. There can be a concurrent read, and this concurrent read we are going to call here as read only files. But when there is a write operation, obviously only one user is going to take place. So mutual exclusion, it sees that it is going to make a lock mechanism, do the read operation, then it is going to make a unlock operation. So this is shared resource, and shared resource is going to be protected. How it is going to be protected? It is going to protected with a primitive called as mutual exclusion. At most one job will hold at a time. So when that person, he is going to update the database, he is going to make a lock operation, and he is going to modify the shared object, shared database, then he is going to unlock it. Once he is going to unlock it, again it is going to be public, and everyone can go with a read operation and see the latest updated data. So that is happening, which we are going to call here as mutual exclusion. Second one, we are going to call it as hold and wait. So when we work with hold and wait, we must guarantee that whatever a process requests a resource, it does not hold any other resource. That means I do have process P1, process P2, processes are going to be represented with a circular form, and resources are going to be represented in a rectangular form. This is resource R1, resource R2 here. So let us look into this scenario. So this is what we are going to call it as assignment edge. That is, from resource to process, we are going to call it as an assignment edge, and from process to resource, we are going to call it as request edge. One we are going to call it as assignment edge, another we are going to call it as request edge. So hold and wait. Process P1 is holding resource R1 and it is going to wait for resource R2, which is held by process P2. So this is the scenario here. Process P1 is there, it is holding R1 and it is asking for R2. What is R2? R2 is a resource. Who is holding R2? R2 is holding by P2. So now this scenario we are going to call it as hold and wait. Now how to break up this chain? Very simple. The solution is that if P1 wants P2, if P1 wants a resource held by P2, very simple, release R1. Very simple, release R1. So it does not hold any other device. It does not hold any other device. That means if P1 is going for a request edge, then it should leave the assignment edge. If P1 is going to move for a request edge, then it must unhold the assignment edge. So either assignment edge should work nor a request edge should work, not both at a time. So that is what we are going to call it as a restraining of or a preventing of the deadlock. So if P1 is a thing and if it wants a resource R2, then it should release the resource which is held by it. That is, it should release R1 to gain R2. So that is what the prevention is. So in today's class, we have taken up the 4 characteristics: mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption and circular waiting. Then we talked the data structure to talk how a deadlock has to be operated. It should use graphs data structure, and graphs contain some set of vertices and edges. Then we are now discussing a topic called as prevention. In that we've taken up the first 2 attributes: how to restrain mutual exclusion, how to restrain hold and wait. So in next class, we'll be talking about how to restrain no preemption and how to restrain circular wait, etc. So this is all for the day. Thank you. Thank you for joining. I am stopping the